Most people think control is loud. It isn't. The person who dominates a room is rarely the one speaking the most or moving the fastest. Control is quiet, subtle, almost invisible. And if you don't understand how it works, you're not just missing it. You're being controlled by those who do. Because in every conversation, there's a silent hierarchy forming. Someone is setting the pace. Someone is reacting. Someone is leading without saying a word. And most people, without realizing it, give that position away. Not through weakness, but through unconscious habits. What you're about to see are 7 of those habits, small behavioral shifts backed by behavioral science that quietly reposition you. No force, no aggression, just control. The first is what most people get wrong immediately. They rush. They answer too quickly. React too quickly. Agree too quickly. They think speed shows confidence. It doesn't. It shows compliance. High-control individuals understand something most people ignore. First, it creates weight behind your words. Second, it forces the other person to lean in, to interpret, to engage, to fill the gap. And the person who fills the gap is usually the one seeking approval. Now watch what happens when you combine that with something even more subtle. Eye contact. Most people either avoid it or overcompensate and make it aggressive. But control isn't in intensity, it's in precision. Holding eye contact just a fraction longer than normal, especially after you finish speaking, creates a quiet pressure. Not enough to intimidate, just enough to make the other person aware. You're not looking away to relieve tension, you're letting it sit. And that moment shifts the dynamic. Because most people break eye contact first, and the one who breaks subconsciously concedes. But the real turning point in most interactions isn't what's said, it's what isn't. Strategic silence is one of the most underused tools in human behavior. Whoever controls the tempo controls the interaction. When someone asks you a question and you respond instantly, you're following their pace. You're stepping into their frame. But when you introduce a slight delay, just a second or two, you disrupt that rhythm. Now they wait. Now they adjust. That pause, subtle as it is, signals that you're not operating on their timeline. You're setting your own. And people feel that shift, even if they can't explain it. Then there's the habit that makes people uncomfortable almost immediately. Speaking less than necessary. Most people talk to fill space. They over-explain, over-justify, over-share, because silence makes them nervous. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. The more you speak, the more information you leak. And information is leverage. High-control individuals don't rush to express everything they think. They say what's necessary. Then they stop. No extra clarification. No unnecessary elaboration. This does 2 things. When a conversation dips, most people rush to rescue it. They fill the silence with words, questions, anything to avoid that brief discomfort. But that reaction exposes something. A need to maintain approval, to keep things smooth. High-control individuals do the opposite. They allow silence to exist. After a statement, after a question, even in negotiation. And something interesting happens. The other person starts to talk more. They explain further, reveal more. Sometimes even contradict themselves. Because silence creates pressure, and pressure makes people disclose. The one who can sit in that silence without flinching holds the advantage. Now, here's where it becomes almost invisible. Delayed mirroring. You've heard that mirroring builds rapport, and it does. But most people do it immediately, and it feels artificial. They copy tone, posture, expressions in real time. It's obvious, and when it's obvious, it loses power. High-control individuals mirror, but with a delay, a few seconds later. A shift in posture after the other person settles. A subtle alignment in tone after the conversation evolves. It's not imitation, it's calibration. This creates a sense of familiarity without triggering awareness. The other person feels understood, but doesn't see the mechanism. And influence works best when it's unnoticed. Then comes the habit most people fail under pressure. Emotional neutrality. When tension rises, most people react. Their tone shifts. Their facial expressions tighten. Their words become faster, sharper, defensive. They reveal exactly how they feel, and in doing so, they give the other person a map. High-control individuals don't suppress emotion. They regulate its display. Even when challenged, they remain measured. Their tone stays even. Their pace doesn't change. Their expressions stay controlled. This does something powerful. It creates asymmetry. The other person becomes the only visible source of emotion in the interaction. And that imbalance subtly shifts authority, because the calmer person is perceived as the one in control, not by force, by contrast. Finally, there's one moment that defines the entire interaction: the ending. Most people linger too long. They wait for the right moment to leave. They stretch conversations past their natural close. Because leaving first feels risky. What if it seems rude? What if it signals disinterest? But here's the reality. The person who controls the exit controls the memory. High-control individuals end interactions on their terms. Not abruptly, not awkwardly, just decisively. They recognize the peak, and they leave there. This creates something rare: scarcity. The interaction ends while it's still engaging, which means the other person is left wanting more, not relieved that it's over. And that's what stays with them. All of this points to a single principle most people overlook. Control isn't about overpowering others. It's about not being pulled unconsciously into their pace, their emotions, their need for validation. It's restraint, precision, awareness of what's happening beneath the surface. Most people will continue reacting, filling silence, explaining too much, revealing too quickly, and they'll never realize why they feel slightly out of position in conversations. But once you see it, you can't unsee it, because control, real control, was never loud. It was always quiet, and now, so are you.